Hi, and welcome to the 91 Day Success Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and I am thrilled to have with me today a friend and peer of mine, John Henao. John runs two agencies. He runs an agency serving, I'm not going to tell him. I'll let you tell him, but John runs two agencies. One is a staffing agency, the other is a digital marketing agency. And I had the privilege of meeting John through a joint mastermind and coaching group that we're in. And I'm thrilled to say that he's not only a client, not only a friend, but also a vendor. So John has been one of those great trusted individuals that you just connect with and then try to figure out how much you can collaborate with because it always makes sense. So, John, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to have a conversation. Tell us a little bit for the audience that maybe isn't familiar with John, maybe doesn't know much about Ewizer or GoStaffy. Tell us just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into a conversation.
Well, I'm from Miami, Florida, and thank you for the intro. I love when people introduce you. Sometimes they lift the bar super high, and so thank you so much. And I'm super excited to be in this podcast. So, just a little bit about myself. I was born in Miami. I started a marketing agency about 12 years ago called Ewizer. We started as a generalist agency, and for the past 4 years, we started focusing on the legal niche, and we've been doing great things with the agency. Um, from the agency, we started about 3 years ago. We started a staffing agency because we saw that there was a need, and my whole team is in Colombia. So that's part of the whole story with Ewizer. We've had success with Ewizer where we grew the agency to seven figures. So we found success through the agency, and then we realized that most businesses were looking for a way to save money and have good people, right, and not pay too much payroll and whatnot. So we started the staffing agency Go Staffy about 2.5 3 years ago, and it was for local businesses, and we started seeing success there. And last year we started offering it to marketing agencies where we're helping them as well to find good talent from Colombia as well. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it is. We love Go Staffy. That's pretty much one of my passion is to really create more jobs for the people that are from my country. I go to Colombia 4 or 5 times a year, and it really, build the team up and just really hang out with them. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what we are, and we service, like I said, we service only digital marketing agencies when it comes to the Go Staffy company.
Well, and I know that's really where you and I started to meet when we were down at an event in Miami through our coach, Josh Nelson at Seven Figure Agency. And we were chatting, and our agency had a need for some more staff. And candidly, it run into the issue that it's just, and I know some people won't believe this, but it is really hard to find people that want to work in the United States. It is just ever since COVID, it seems at least that everyone that wants a job and wants to work already has a job. And so it seems as though the people that are available are really the ones that don't really want to work that hard. And I know that's a broad generalization, but talk to me a little bit, John, about from Go Staffy's perspective. And I know you work primarily with digital agencies, and that's really a lot of our audience as well. Talk to me a little bit about the value that you're finding that having staff in Colombia brings to them. I know I've can name a lot because, as you know, we have multiple staff with you. But I'd love to hear from your perspective, again, maybe why you chose Colombia and why you think it's such a good fit from a remote staffing perspective, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. So the reason we chose Colombia is my parents were from there. So my agency, like I said, we started with our first hire 8 years ago. So we've had over 8 years experience dealing with people from Colombia. So we started 8 years ago. Started to hire, started finding success, and one of the benefits of hiring people from Colombia or prospects from there is the fact that you're in the same time zone. That's one area. I know a lot of people, when they think of virtual assistants, the first thing that comes to mind is the Philippines or just other countries, right? And the reason we chose Colombia, like I said, it was easier because my parents are from there, and my brother actually, allowed me to borrow one of his desks like 8 years ago, and that's how it started. But like I said, talking about the benefits once again is the idea that, like you said, it's really hard to find the right talent in the US. I mean, you could find the right talent, but then, and I'm not dismissing if you do have people working in the US and there are, let's say, your operations manager and it's doing well, keep them and make sure that they're happy. But I feel that there's a lot of roles that you can hire in Latin America, in Colombia, where the difference is that most of these people, they love digital marketing. They want to work for a US company and they really cherish their job. They're looking for stability. Um, and so I would say, is they want more stability. They You're in the same time zone. They want to grow in the area of digital marketing and they have great coffee too.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Always a bonus. And again, I know just speaking from practical personal experience, it is really nice having someone that's in Central Standard Time Zone to work with. I know, the other thing is from a language perspective, everybody we've talked to down there, and I admit I am not bilingual. I wish I was. I'm not. I struggle enough with English, but everybody's easy to communicate with. English is they're very proficient, so it's not a problem like that. And I know in some other countries it can be. The Hispanic accent is very normal. It's not something that is considered, you know. Odd. I know we've all dealt with somebody from the other side of the world through AT&T customer service or Comcast customer service, and because they couldn't answer our questions, it probably gave us a negative impression of again just that accent in general. And so that's not an issue in Central America at all. We've also noticed that again, just the work ethic is tremendous. Very good work ethic, and that's obviously important as a business owner. We don't want people to work necessarily out of hours, but when they're working for me, I want them to work and I want them to do a great job. And that's certainly been the case with the staff that we've been fortunate enough to place with you. Talk to us a little bit about if we've got agencies out there that are not doing that. And I know this is relatively new for our agency too. We didn't do this a year ago at all. But talk to us about how does it work? So if I'm an agency and I'm like, okay, I can't find the people I'm looking for, or I'm looking to scale and provide some other coverage, how do they engage with you, John? And what's that process look like? How does the candidate get found? How do they work? What's GoStaffy do? Where do they fit into that process? And how do you make that easy for us here in the United States?
Yeah, totally. So we have a simple process. It's a 3 or 4 step process where we get on a call, a discovery call, and just ask the right questions with that partner that wants to hire someone. And the easiest way is to get a description of the role, because usually when someone is wanting a specific role, let's say a marketing assistant, every marketing assistant is going to be different from different agencies. So we ask them for a description of the role, and then we start the vetting process. Usually, the good thing about us is that we have over 1,000 people in a pool already that not that we have vetted, every single one of them, but they found interest in working with us, with a marketing agency. So what we do is we look first in our pool and we look for that marketing assistant, and we match it with the description that you want. And then pretty much what we do is we take them through a rigid like interview process. I mean, we ask them over like 60, 70 questions, not just how skillful they are, but also with, giving them the Kobe, the DISC assessment, making sure that they're not just like, I've always, like, for me, a character is number one. So we try our best to look for the right candidate that has the right character as well, besides the skill. So we take them through that. Then we send an audio version to the actual partner to make sure if that works, if they like what they hear. And then after that, then we have a final Zoom meeting with the partner. And then at that point, if the partner likes that candidate, then we hire them. We hire them, and usually, if they're working for another company, we usually ask, they ask for a week or 2 weeks, for them to start the actual, their first day, pretty much. And then the good thing is that we take care of everything. The human resource side. We also we have a weekly self-development class that we take them every single week. We believe in self-development. I believe in culture too. So that's one of the reasons we have grown in our agency side, is because of our culture, and it's a good retention strategy, which is a tip for all agencies or even business owners, that if you want to grow, you need to have a good culture. I'm a culture guy. I'm a video guy too, but culture is number one for us in regards to if you want to scale. Um, but yeah, that's in a nutshell. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but usually we take them through a rigid process. Um, and we make sure that it's the right candidate. And if we mess up, like let's say, it could happen. There can be some hiccups. We're very good in replacing that person and making sure that we can get that right candidate again.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. Nothing is guaranteed in life, but I know, again, with our agency, we've had a couple turnover like you have here when I hire in the U.S., and I can say you guys have been fantastic to work with there and very responsive, and we certainly appreciate that. From a benefit perspective, I know this again, something it's new to us. Some agencies have been doing this forever, some have not. But as they're looking at that, what are some of the types of roles and positions that you find really work well for staffing in Colombia that can add a lot of value to your clients here in the US?
Yeah, so we offer almost every like position except for the media buyers. It's been really tough to find like a Facebook ads person or Google ads person or even an SEO person. Um, and so the types of roles that we've found success has been marketing assistants, executive assistants, admins, social media graphic designers. We've had like maybe 3 or 4 account managers that are working really well too. Um, Sales has been another one that it's hit or miss sometimes, but we found success in a few sales. But I would say in general, it's been more on the creative side, I would say,
Mhm.
and admins, executive assistants, web designers is a big one for us. We've had great success with web designers as well. So anything on the creative side, I would say. We also teach most of the web designers. Also, we take them through a course so they can learn high level. I know most of the agencies use high level, so we take them through a course, and that goes with every other role. If we have any SOPs or checklists, we make sure that we train them as much as we can, because we want to be that 30% support or 35% support for the agency.
That makes a ton of sense. How does it work with, I know just again, in my experience in the Philippines as an example, they've got, excuse me, they've got regular power outages. There's other things that go on, internet issues and things like that. And excuse me, we'll edit that out.
No worries, no worries.
I know in the Philippines and stuff, they have power outages they deal with, internet outages, things like that. And, it's important to make sure they've got backup power and all that. Is that an issue that isn't common in Colombia, or is that something that's really more, I guess, one of the benefits of Colombia that they don't have to deal with that?
Yeah, so we hardly get power outages. I mean, it does happen. I'm not going to say it never does. Um, when it does happen, it's very rare. Like for example, in our agency, I think we've only had 2 outages in a whole year, and usually the biggest one has been that we were out for 3 4 hours, which is not a big deal. Um, what we try to do as well is when we hire candidates, we look for the areas that are good areas because usually the power outages happen in bad areas, right? Or in the areas that are just not a good area, right?
Sure.
So we try to hire in areas that are good where when there is a power outage, it might just be just 20, 30 minutes. What we have in place usually is, and that's where we come into place, is that we have a good communication system where if there is a power outage, we make sure that we communicate with the team member and make sure, hey, is there a coffee shop nearby, just to make sure that you're. So we're always in communication. But like I said, it's not a common thing that happens. Um, and that's part of the service that we offer, is that we make sure that their internet is working properly. Sometimes we even require them to have 2 internets depending on the budget or what
Hmm.
type of role they have, right? If they're an account manager, that's a really important role versus if they're just a graphic designer, right? If they have a task in place and they have a 1 hour power outage or 2 hours, it's not going to affect that much versus an account manager. So depending on the role, sometimes we'll require them to have 2 internets as a backup, just in case the internet goes down too. It could happen. Um, but yeah, I would say good area. We try to find those good areas that don't have that much power outage. But if I had to compare for sure from the Philippines to Colombia, it's night and day. I mean, that's from what I've heard.
Well, and I would agree with you, and that's one of the reasons I asked. I know when I've worked with staff in the Philippines before, while they've been great, they had something they called load shedding and things like that they were dealing with. So there were literally scheduled times of the day that their power was out, and of course, if the power goes out, the internet goes out, the phone goes out, everything goes out. So it made it much harder. And I know that's not been something I've noticed at all with the staff that we've gotten through you guys. And while I never asked the question, it's never come up. So I think it's very much here in the U.S. This the prime example. We're recording this on a Friday, and this afternoon I was supposed to be giving a 3 hour long workshop with a peer of mine, and I got a call from him at 7 o'clock this morning, and he goes, "I just got a notice from Spectrum Internet that they're doing updates, and I'm down from noon to 7 today. I won't have internet." So I mean, that even happens here in the US, and we've spent the last 2 hours, recording stuff and telling everybody, "All right, we're gonna post it." But, in this case, it's a bummer. It's a paid workshop, but what do you do when the internet's down? It's hard to do a workshop from a coffee shop because it just doesn't. You can work from a coffee shop, but it's hard to do one when you're on camera and everything else. So,
Yep,
that
totally.
that even happens here in the US. We all run into that on occasion, and I think that's one of the big benefits that I've at least noticed, and our team has noticed with Central American staff and out of Colombia is, again, it just some of those typical problems that we hear about when you think VAs or things like that and offshoring have not been an issue in Colombia, and I think that's been one of the really nice aspects of that as we do that. Certainly, I'm a huge fan of the fact that they're Central Time Zone as well because it makes it so simple to work with them. Even if you want them to work Eastern Standard Time, I mean it's an hour a difference day. It's not like staff out of South Africa that's 8 hours of difference, or out of the Philippines it's 12 to 13 hours different. Much
Absolutely,
easier. So.
absolutely.
Good. Talk to me a little bit about your team structure over there. If I'm not mistaken, you guys have actually an office in Colombia as well, and that's one of the things that really helps you manage the team and get things done. I know recently we had a team member that needed to get some updated equipment, and I was pleasantly surprised when you told me that you were literally going to have somebody bring them the updated equipment they need, and you took care of all that. I didn't have to worry about any of it. Talk to me a little bit about that aspect of things because the reality is webcams and things like that occasionally go bad and they need that. And again, having somebody in country and even in city in that case, I think really helped out. Talk to me a little bit about that and why that adds value from, again, me just going out to, some website and trying to find somebody on Upwork that happens to be in Colombia.
Yeah, totally. So I'm very involved with my team. I mean, I travel there, like I said, 5 times a year. So whenever I travel there, it's mainly for Ewizer and also for GoStaffy as well. So the office, it's fits about 16 people right now. We're actually in the process of moving to a facility that fits around 40 people. We're excited that's going to be early 2024, between January and March. So the structure pretty much is where we found there's more accountability, in regards to more control. Not to say because we have two people that work remote. Not to say that it can happen with having people working remote. But the advantages have been just building a nice culture. I would say team bonding, going there. Like you said, we're close to the vicinity of the people that we hire for the partners. Some of them are close to us, some of them might be a few hours away. The ones that are a few hours away from the actual office, is we've created some alliances already with different regions, because there's Bogota, there's Medellin, there's different areas in Colombia, right? So if a team member is too far away, we already have a connection there, with someone that if they need to replace a computer, we can send someone there. Not only with computers, but also the ability to send gifts, because we believe in culture, right? So we
Hmm.
send birthday gifts, we surprise them with Starbucks. There's a Starbucks nearby, or Juan Valdez is their coffee, uh, like their Starbucks. So we send
Yep.
them, for gifts, for special events. We're there for them because of the vicinity. So I would say the benefit overall has been culture, team building, and being able even to even interview them in person if they're close by. If a partner decides to move forward, we like to really be in touch with them, and I believe that's where we bring, what's the right word to say? That's where we're unique that we're very into the people and we have that vicinity close to them to build that stickiness for that team member.
No, and I think you guys do an amazing job of that. I know I was just on the phone with one of our staff that we have with you guys the other day, and we're on a video call, and she goes, "Hang on, there's somebody at my door." And I said, "Okay, no problem." And we waited a minute, and she comes back with this huge smile on her face, big coffee cup, and she goes, "Oh, I got coffee." And I'm like, "Who sent you coffee?" She goes, "John sent me coffee. This is so cool." And so I think that culture that you guys build is really important too, because the thing I like about it is not only do they get to really be full time for our agency and a dedicated staff member, but they get the added benefit of having in country culture and connections and all that. And I think it does bring just a tremendous amount of value.
And
So,
I want to add to what
yeah,
you're saying
please.
is we also, besides what we do for the team member, right, in regards to like sometimes we'll surprise them with a Juan Valdez, is we can also do, I mean, we also do it for our partners. So for example, if you
Mm,
want to send them any type of merch, if, I mean, the other day, I think, one of your guys was saying, hey, I want to give a Christmas card, like,
right.
for Christmas. And we're like, yeah, absolutely. We sent you a form, you fill it out, or an email, they fill it out, and we can accommodate any type of gifts. So anything with merch, with special gifting, birthdays, holidays, we do it, in behalf of the agency. So I think that's what makes us a little bit unique as well, that we really want them to continue that relationship more for the partner. And we're just there as an added value, like as an added value where we're putting that extra layer of retention to that agency and to the partner.
Well, and again, you do an excellent job at it. It works out really well. And I've got to say, I've been very pleased, as you know, I've shared that with you. I want to ask a question that may seem a little odd to some people, but for those of us that are, maybe over 40 and I'm over 50, we grew up thinking of Colombia as, the drug capital of the world. And so the thought of maybe hiring somebody in Colombia seems just a little off to some of us. I know I had to think about that for a minute because, again, I grew up with, every movie I saw in the 80s when I was a teenager has, Colombia drug lords and all that. Talk to us about that perception versus the reality, because obviously the reality is proven to be very, very different than what that perception is. But talk to us a little bit about that for those of us that maybe, like me, spent a lot of time in the 80s and 90s watching movies of drug cartels, and explain how, we all have drugs. I know that, but that's not what Colombia really is.
Yeah, no, totally. It has changed. I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know the whole history of it, but I know definitely it was worse before. But I mean, it has changed in regards to not only thinking of, oh my God, like I'm going to a country, like I travel there. I travel there, like I said, 5 times a year. And people that are not familiar, they probably freak out when I travel to this country, right? But it's not what you think. I mean, the infrastructure, like I'm trying to find the right word, but there's like sects and groups that,
Yep.
like, let's say gangs that used to be more prevalent back in the days, but it's the police and the structure of the order has gotten a lot better in regards to the government, versus, let's say, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago. So
Sure.
it's not what people think. When I travel there, it's very safe as well. That's one of the benefits too, that when you hire people from Colombia, you can even actually travel there. It's only 2 hours away. I mean, depending on where you live. So the vicinity, it's very safe, as long as you stay within the good areas and you know where you're going. But every area is bad. Like Miami has
Well,
one of the
I
worst
was
area, right?
I was just gonna say there's parts of Miami that I don't want to go to, and living up in the Midwest, I promise you, there are parts of Chicago I don't want to go to. I actually have an interesting story about that. When I was a teenager, I was driving through Chicago, and I needed gas, and I got off at an exit, and of course, I'm this dumb Midwestern teenager that doesn't know anything, and I got off at an exit, pulled off to get gas, and pulled in, and I noticed that I was one of the few white guys around, but I didn't care because that's never been important to me. And I went into the gas station because this was before prepay at the pump. I'm going to date myself a bit. And I'll never forget, there was this nice elderly black gentleman in there. And he leaned over the counter to me and he says, "Come here." I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You don't belong here." And I kind of
Oh,
looked and I said, "What?" He goes, "Look around." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, do you need gas to go another 10 miles or can you go 10 miles? And I go, I could go another 10 miles. He goes, go out, get in your car and leave.
Well,
This is not your exit. Then it clicked with me and I'm like, that's in Chicago. I mean, that's not is any, and literally 3 miles down the road, there was no problem, but that was a neighborhood I wasn't supposed to be in. And so I know that happens everywhere. Like you said, in Miami, wherever that can be, but I know I just, again, it's a perception. I know it's not a reality, but as an agency owner, we have to deal with those perceptions as well as we go through that and deal with that. So certainly that's been
and I
critical.
remember, I remember going when I first started going to Colombia. Of course, like my parents were used to, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, they do travel there here and there, and they would say, John, make sure, be careful. When you get out of the Uber, the taxi, make sure. And I freaked out, right? The first day, I'm
Yep.
looking behind me, I'm walking, and now it's like I'm walking in, like here in Miami. It's the same because I know the area. I mean, the most important thing is you get to the airport, go to where you have to go, and your brain gets adjusted, and your brain will remind you like, hey John, it's safe, don't worry, you're in a good area. It's just a matter of just when you go to a place and you start realizing, okay, this is the area I cannot go, but
Sure.
these are the good areas, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And the food is
Well, and
great,
again,
so.
we've had amazing luck with the quality of the personnel and their skill sets and everything else. I know it definitely works out, and probably not the most popular topic. It's just one that I know has come up. In fact, just the other day, I'd referred you to another agency that I know, and that was one of the things
Thank
they
you.
mentioned. They said, "But isn't Colombia all about drugs?" And I said, "No, no, no. That was in the movies, and that was different. It's very different nowadays." And again, the people there are amazing. I've not been there, but I do like the fact that one of the cool things about Colombia is it'd be a whole lot easier to go to Colombia or to fly them here than it would be for somebody that was in the Philippines or somebody that was in, the Middle East or anywhere else. Much, much easier to do that. And very similar values I've noticed too. And the people that we've had on our team that you've brought to us are very similar values to what we have. So it just makes that assimilation and that cultural aspect that much easier, I've found, across the
Yeah,
board.
and we were at a trade show, at the intensive, the last intensive, and we actually brought someone from my team, and she had her visa. So most of them, I mean, not most of them, but let's say 40% of them probably have a visa. So that's the advantage too, that you can, once you hire someone, you can actually bring them to the trade shows if they, if they feel comfortable, right? And it's not as far. It's like I said, it's a 2 hour flight or 2 3 hour flight. So that's a huge advantage as well. And the fact that they also
Absolutely.
speak Spanish is another plus.
No, and that's another thing we've noticed. It has been, especially with the last agency that I stepped away from. As you know, my wife still runs that, and I've started a new agency, but at Whitebeard. But at Valor Circle, they're in the home services sector, and a lot of the clients they deal with, are Hispanic and speak Spanish, and it's been a huge value to have somebody that can do that natively. Because, like I said, I'm not bilingual. I can't do that. Spanish class was one of the worst classes I had. I had enough hard time with English. It's not my jam, as they say. I'm not good with languages. But yeah, that's been another huge benefit, is to have that ability to have bilingual staff available to serve. And again, similar values. It's been a great experience. Talk to me a little bit about just the process. If somebody's interested, they're listening to what we're talking about, John, and they say, maybe it's time we look into that and we find out what might be available. What's the best thing they can do to get in touch with you and find out, how do they find out what it's like to work with you and maybe take that next step?
Yeah, they can go to the website. I mean, it's simple. Gostaffy.com. There's a link right there, a button you click on, and it's going to ask you just simple questions, just to like what role you're looking for. It's going to ask you like 6 or 7 questions, and then from there it's going to take you to my calendar, and we can jump on a call, 15-minute 15-minute discovery call. And if you think we're the right fit, then we start the process pretty much, and we start looking for the right candidate for you.
Fantastic. No, it makes, and I know you make the process super easy, and we love that. One of the things I love to ask, in your case, I love because you've owned multiple businesses, John, but if the name of our podcast is 91 Day Success Podcast, and so I love to ask my guests, if you had to start over, or you were advising somebody who was starting a new business and they had $1,000, and the goal is to get to $10,000 in revenue in the first 90 days. What advice might you give them, or what might you do if you said, all right, I'm going to do this? Again, limited budgets. You don't have to worry about lifestyle and all that, but as far as the business, there's just $1,000. What would you do to build a company that you think could be generating or would be close to generating that $10,000 a month in revenue by the end of the third month? Any thoughts, any ideas there?
Yeah. So first thing I would do is find a niche. I would say find a niche that is not seasonal, right, and that is somewhat profitable, right? Because a lot of times we focus on companies that maybe they're not as high ticket value, right? So find a niche that has a decent ticket value whenever they sell. Like let's say, for example, let's say lawyers, right? Lawyers,
Hmm.
if you close on a PI deal, they're going to make a lot of money, right? And I'm not saying you have to pick lawyers, but pick a niche that you like, right? Make sure that you like the niche as well. And then I would say like just try to get a list first, and then start nurturing that list and be very aggressive when it comes to just old school strategies, making sure um, find the need. What's their common need that niche is, that niche has, right? Maybe they're struggling with not getting enough reviews. Maybe they don't have a good presence online, right? Like I know you have something with video editing. Maybe they suck when it comes to social media with video editing. So I think finding where they're hurting, finding the right niche, um, and just going after it. And I think that that's a good start. And then while you're building within those 3 months, I believe in also building a good team, right? Find that Robin that sees your vision, that sees where you want to go. And that's how I started. I mean, 8 years ago, there was one person that I really give all the success. And I mean, he's no longer with us, but he was with us for 8 years. He saw the vision. It was just me and him, right? So I think finding that right person, and may be hard, right? You might not find the right person, but if you do, make sure you treat them well. Make sure that you both strategize so that you get to where you're at. So I believe in culture and finding the right person, but I would say it's a combination of finding the right niche, um, getting getting a list for that niche, and then finding that one person that sees the vision, so that you can hit your goals and surpass that $10,000 you said, $10,000 a month.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the general goal. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say
good.
I would do that.
Good advice. Good advice. I really appreciate that and appreciate your perspective on that. It's always, like I said, I love to get that from other agency owners, other business people, and then and just see what's of interest to them. So, what question for you? And as we take a look into 2024, as we're recording this is December. This will go live probably just before the end of the year, possibly right after the first of the year. John, as you look into your crystal ball, what changes do you see coming as far as in the either the agency or the digital or the staffing world, that you think our listeners might be interested in and should be paying attention to? Any good predictions that you got for us?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think when it comes to agencies, I think there's going to be a little bit of a shift where agencies, I mean, I'm sorry, clients or potential businesses are going to lean more towards AI. I feel that AI is very popular now, and so I think that agencies will have to shift more on offering AI and having more of a SaaS type of model to have, like, in regards to having another option, so that in case they don't want to go for the high ticket item, they can grab something that's more affordable and that they can even use more as a like a utility type of bill, where it doesn't, like, they don't feel that expense in regards to, we know it's not an expense, it's an investment, right? So having that
Right.
option, I think, is huge, where you give them some type of plan that includes AI, um, and I'm losing my train of thought here. Having AI and more of the SaaS, the software. I think that's where agencies are headed. Not to say that there's not going to be like a market for the higher ticket items and where we can do all the service for you. I think that's still going to be there, but I think it's going to shift to that. Um, in regards to the staffing side, I think that people are going to start realizing that they need to start saving more money. As I mean, some niches or some industries are hurting because of the economy. So I think that businesses are going to start realizing that they want to save money, they want to be more profitable, right? Nowadays, if you say my company, we're at 2 million, but if your profit is 10% of that 2 million, that's not really being profitable. So I think companies are going to start shifting and realizing that they need to start looking to hire virtual staff, to keep their overhead low, right? I would say that, and I would say as well as, having that diversification in regards to even Hispanic, like Spanish speakers. I think that opens another market for companies too. If they hire someone from Latin America, I think that they're going to start figuring out ideas. But I would say the biggest would be the time savings. I mean, the money that they're saving in regards to hiring talent in Latin America.
Well, again, good advice, and I think your crystal ball is pretty clear. I think that's absolutely the direction that things are going, and good advice all the way around. Well, John, I want to thank you for the time today, for coming, spending time with us. I know we had a couple of scheduling snafus on both of our side to get this done, and just so grateful. And also, just thank you for the incredible service that you give to our agency as well. It's great to have you as a partner. We really do appreciate that. And I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this and you're contemplating, boy, would this remote staffing work for me? Reach out and have a conversation with John. He's not like the normal sales guy that's going to try to convince you that his solution's perfect. He's going to ask you some great questions and find out if it's a good fit. And as you guys know, when it comes to a good partner, trust is paramount. And I can definitely tell you that, I trust John and I trust him to do the right thing. And that's a huge value in a partner. So reach out and talk to him. It won't be a waste of your time. John, again, thank you for your time. I'm so grateful. Appreciate that. And if you're listening in the podcast today, we want to always thank you for listening in. Please don't hesitate to subscribe. That helps us. We love your feedback. We really love those reviews as well. So thank you for your time, everybody. And we'll see you on the other side. Make it a great day, everybody.